apologize about that. So welcome in, guys. Glad to have you here. I was just doing my own thing, right? So glad to have you here, guys. Let me know where you're coming in from, where you're checking in from. We're going to talk about CPI inflation report that was released this morning, okay? What this means for us and our money. That's the big question we want to try to answer on this live feed today. So I think you guys can hear me now. Excellent. Some of you say, yep, you hear me. Fantastic. So I'm going to take these off because I'm a little more comfortable without them. So, guys, let me know where you're coming from, what city, state, country that you're in, reporting in from. We're going to have some good conversation today about money, personal finances, and, of course, about the CPI information that was given out to us this morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Chesapeake, Virginia, Brandon Love Cash. Okay, great name, by the way, Brandon. Great name. Checking in from Chesapeake, Virginia. Joe is all the way from Texas. We got That's Old Boy from Dallas, Texas. Thumbs up from Get the Memo. Glad to have you here as always. I appreciate you being here. Appreciate your support. Hucklebuck, appreciate your supporters as well. Roger that. Looks like we got Stockton, California. All right. Atlanta's in the house as well from Hucklebuck. And we got someone from Alabama checking in, which looks like Birmingham, Alabama. Good. Music Money and ENT. Good to have you guys. Normally when we do these live feeds, we have folks from all over the country. We have folks from all over the world. A lot of times we get the UK, South Africa. We get Nigeria, Ghana in here. Sometimes we get Brazil. Sometimes we get Australia, New Zealand. We get them obviously throughout Europe. So we get quite a few folks in here, guys, to have these real basic, plain, common sense conversations about the U.S. economy and about personal finance, because that's important as well. So Oceanside, Trees Matter, good to have you checking in from Stockton, California. I'm about to put on my my voiceover voice in a minute, right? Right, Tucson, Arizona. Let's go. Little to you. Hello, Smart Money Bro from Michigan. Okay, no more of that, guys. Just testing that out for a second. But let's talk money. Let's talk about the CPI numbers that came out today. And let's have a general conversation. Just some of that lighting here. Have a general conversation about what we need to be doing, where our money is, what's going on. Because we've gotten a lot of reports, right? You've seen a lot of stuff on TV this morning, if you watch the news, or even if you haven't, regarding inflation. And inflation touches all of us, obviously. Touches our pocketbooks, right? We got Miss V checking in from Seattle, Washington. I don't like when people put an R in Washington. It's Washington, not Washington, right? Yes. Someone said universal language. Absolutely. How to handle money, what's going on with money. Because the thing about money is, guys, we use money every single day, and a lot of us don't know much about it, right? We don't know a whole lot about money, the intricacies of money. Now, we may have went out and got a 4-year degree or some type of bachelor's degree or master's degree and all this stuff, but nobody taught us about the thing that we use every single day. Nobody gave us information at a young age about how to really incorporate and use that thing that pays for our food, to put food in our mouth, right? So I like to have these general conversations, basic conversations about money, because they help the average person. The channel is built around helping ordinary people be extraordinary with their money. So first on this live, we're going to talk about the inflation numbers, what they're telling us, what they said, and then we're also going to talk about a little bit of housekeeping stuff here and there, and then we're going to do some Q&A, guys. If you're up for some Q&A, feel free to get ready to ask some questions down the road here. Ask a few questions in terms of money, U.S. economy, etc., and then we'll do some Q&A as well. And I like to do this interactive, right? Guys, I'll be checking out some comments and maybe doing some Q&A along the way, because I like communicating with you guys and not necessarily talking at you, but having conversation with you. So if you do have a question coming up in just a little bit, guys, when we do our Q&A, at that point, be sure you put a Q next to your question in the chat, and then we can answer those questions and get going. Okay, so let's just jump into it. By the way, guys, smash that like button for me. We got 45 people in here. It's probably going to grow up to 100, 150 people. Smash that like button for me. Really important, super duper important. And then do me a special favor and share this video and the link with your network of people, your friends, your family, the people who you value, and who you think needs to hear good, solid information about finances, about money, about what's taking place with our inflation in our economy. And also check out the link in the description box. I put a link to Mint Mobile. I use Mint Mobile, guys. I like it a lot. It's great right now through October. I think you can get premium cell phone plans for as little as $15 a month, right? So it uses the world's largest 5G, so there's no worry about coverage or data or drop calls. None of that stuff happens. It's a great network. So let's jump into it, guys. I'm going to try to break this down in really plain language, what happened, guys, in terms of our inflation and the report we got this morning, right? There's two different measures of inflation, right? Let's make sure we're straight on that. Two different measures of inflation. We got a CPI inflation. CPI is consumer price index, right? That's the headline. I call it headline inflation. People call it headline inflation because that's the one we see that flashes across the headlines all the time, right? We always see the CPI when they say, well, inflation went to 9%, like it was last June. Well, they're talking about consumer price index, right? That measure of inflation. That CPI measure of inflation includes the more volatile things, like energy, the price of energy, which fluctuates really high, really low. And then, of course, it also includes, CPI includes food as well. By the way, food is tied to energy, okay? So that's food and energy are kind of intertwined with each other because it takes energy to make food. So when you're talking about manufacturing, you go to the grocery store and you see all that stuff sitting in the grocery store, all the meat and the food and the cereal and bread and all that stuff. There's somebody manufacturing that stuff. There's somebody putting together that stuff and building that stuff and putting the plastic on this and putting the stuff inside of the plastic jars and the styrofoam, right? There's companies that make a lot of that stuff. And, so our energy, those companies use energy, right? They use electricity and gas, et cetera. So our energy and our food are really intertwined. And so CPI inflation includes energy and food, both separate items. Actually, it separates them. It uses both of those. It includes both of those, right? But they're really volatile, right? They tend to fluctuate more than other measures. And so just keep that in mind, guys. When they measure inflation, no matter how they measure it, they kind of throw items in a basket, so to speak, right? CPI is a basket full of stuff, goods and services that we use, but it includes the goods of energy and food, okay? The more volatile ones, right? And so, the CPI is important, right? But it includes those outliers. Now, all the things in the world that, there's other things in the world that really affect what we're talking about in terms of inflation, and we're going to hit on some of those later. So that's what the difference. CPI includes all that stuff. Core PCE. PCE stands for personal consumption expenditure. Core PCE or core inflation does not include food and energy. Okay. Core throws those things out. So we kind of got both measures today. We got our CPI numbers. And we also got our core numbers today as well. And when you hear the Federal Reserve talking about getting inflation down to 2%, they're talking about the core PCE, the core inflation, not necessarily the headline inflation. Okay, so really important that we note that. Let me share my screen with you guys real quick because I want to share an article with you real quick that talks about some of the things I'm going to be mentioning here. Let's see here. Give me a second here. Nope, don't want to go there. All right. So let's go here. All right, and you guys see that right there. So this article right here, and I made myself a lot bigger than I should be, but this article right here sort of talks about the CPI, and this is an article from, CNBC, okay? It talks about consumer price index rising. So CPI inflation, or what we call headline inflation, today the numbers came out. This article kind of talks about those numbers. The CPI inflation actually increased 0.4%. So 0.4 of a percentage point. CPI inflation month over month. So compared to last month, it went up, right? By almost 0.5 of a percentage point, right? Doesn't sound like much, but it's up, okay? And it also went up 3.7%. We're talking CPI here. CPI went up 3.7% year over year. Okay. So year over year, you have it up about 3.7%. CPI. Okay, this is all according to the Labor Department report that came out this morning. And that compared with what they were expecting, right? The CPI, they were expecting it to go up 0.3% month over month and 3.6% year over year. So it's up a little bit higher than what was expected. It increased, CPI inflation increased more than what was expected month over month and year over year. And also CPI is up from even last month by 0.6%. Okay, it talks about that kind of right here, I think. Yep. So it's up even more than last month. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, that means it's kind of going the wrong way. Yeah, that does mean it's kind of going the wrong way. Shelter, housing, it made up about 30% of the CPI for the year and about 50% of this increase month over month of CPI. And again, of course, energy is up, food is up. So those things played a small role in the CPI inflation going up. And obviously we know about energy right now, which I didn't mention earlier, but we know that oil, the need for oil consumption is we're looking out for it. It may be on the rise because of some of the things that's going on. We got the OPEC plus countries. Those are the countries that, want to manage their own oil that they produce. They're the highest producing oil, some of the highest producing oil companies in the world. And that, of course, increases when they took their oil supply and kind of limited it a little bit. And when they limit it, supply being lower, demand gets, is high, then that means the price of a barrel of oil kind of goes up, right? So that's something to keep in mind, keep an eye on right now. So the article goes on to talk about core PCE or core inflation. So, and you can see right there, by the way, guys, that's the CPI. That's a running of the CPI, just so I can show you that before I get off of CPI. But that's a running of where we are right now, just so you know, since 2020 or so. Got high. This was our peak last summer, by the way. Our peak last summer back in June was at CPI of 9%, right? Huge. So the key to this chart, by the way, when we're talking about CPI, is just kind of note that inflation, guys, it went up high last summer. It's starting to come back down a little bit, right? As you can tell, it's dipping back down. Keep in mind, though, right? Keep in mind that this CPI number, the darker number I'm showing you, the CPI number, it's kind of flattening out over the last couple months, okay? So, and you can tell that right here, right? It's kind of flattening out the last couple of months. So just to note, and it actually eked up a tiny bit this month. So it's kind of like we see it going down overall, going down and down and down, CPI inflation, but it's still being super stubborn. Okay, still being extra stubborn. Now, core inflation, or what they call core PCE, which I said, again, does not include food and energy. And also, by the way, core PCE is what the Fed looks at more closely, right? When they make their monetary policies and their decisions based on a more broader look than just the CPI. So it takes out those two outliers of energy and food, and it's sort of a deeper gauge into the inflation numbers. The core inflation actually also increased by 0.3% on a month over month basis. And it increased by 4.1% on a year over year basis, 12-month basis. So those were actually in line with what was expected, right? And again, they're placing more of an emphasis on the core. So keep that in mind, guys. Core also rose about 0.3% from last month in terms of August. Okay. So that's 0.3%. So that's not good. It's not horrible because we do see that inflation itself is coming down, right? But it ain't that great. Okay. It just ain't that great right now. Let me just kind of share this screen with you guys because you guys get a bigger picture of this thing. All right. I want you to get a bigger picture of this real quick. So let me share this one with you guys because this will give you an overall picture of inflation in general. When you look at inflation, guys, hopefully you guys can see my screen there. When you look at inflation, now this chart right here gives you an idea of what inflation looked like over the past since 1965. Okay. This is the overall. And we're talking CPI right here. Okay. So when you look at this, guys, we're looking at back in 1965, low inflation. This right here was the the mid 70s, early 70s actually. This is when we had that oil crisis going on in America. This is when inflation was super duper high and mortgage rates was 15 and 16% back in the 1980, 81, 82, right? And here we are right now. This was the latest last June. We were at 9% right here. So even that 9% couldn't even begin to touch what we experienced in some of the 70s and the very beginning of the 1980s, right? Here we are today, right here, guys. 3.7 or I think it says 3.7. Right here, guys, where we're at. So the big scheme of things, when you look at the big picture of things, right? Look at where we've been in the big picture of things since 1990, right? When we're talking about right now, inflation, it's kind of starting to normalize is what I'm trying to show you guys here, right? I don't know if that's the right word to say, but inflation is starting to sort of normalize. If we look at inflation for the last 30 plus years, right here in this swatch right here that I'm circling with my cursor, guys, we had some super low inflation right around 2010, 2011, 2009, right? But then we had some super high 70s, 80s, and also last summer. But right about here where we are right now, 3.7% is right smack dab in that sweet spot where we spent the last 30 plus years. So when we look at, and this is CPI, but when we look at the core inflation going down to 2%, how realistic is that from the Fed standpoint, right? Exactly how, is that going to happen? Is it not going to happen? That's something to consider. That's something that we got to be thinking about. And I wanted to show you guys this big picture because sometimes we get wrapped in the last 2 years or last 3 years when it comes to inflation. But I want you to look at the entire picture of inflation in terms of our society. I know things are different. The economy and everything's different than it was in 1980. So sometimes you can't really look at the trends. But if you look at overall in the last 30 years, where we are with inflation right now, although it seems high and it's higher than the Fed wants it to be, it's kind of normal, right? In fact, it's kind of lower than normal in some respects, in some areas, at some points, right? So I just wanted to point that out to you guys because it's important for us to see the bigger picture when it comes to inflation. So does inflation remain a problem? Yeah, it remains higher than what the Fed really wants to see, what all their models are saying that it should be. Right? And because it remains a little higher and has creeped up in the last month for both CPI and core, it might give the Fed some fuel that it needs, no pun intended, right? It might give it some fuel, right, to actually raise rates again when we have the next meeting. The Open Market Committee, Federal Open Market Committee, FOMC, they're going to be meeting in October 31st to figure out if they want to raise the Fed funds rate or if they want to keep it where it's at. I'm pretty sure they're not going to be lowering in the Fed funds rate. But we're going to see if this is a very, very important measure, right? What we just looked at, CPI and core particular, is a very important measure to determine whether or not they're going to raise the Fed funds rate or not. Okay. Keep in mind, guys, that there's other world events happening that are affecting our economy. The attack over in Israel. What's happening obviously in the Ukraine, that's obviously an issue with oil, right? And so we got to be thinking there's other things going on besides just American spending. There's other factors that are paying attention. And the fact that, we see oil, the price of oil. I'm not going to dig too deep into oil right now, but the price of oil has increased recently. Supply has gone down a little bit. Demand may go up a little bit. So we see gas prices going up. But it's not just, okay, by the way, oil doesn't only affect gas prices. Oil also affects everything that we do, everything that's manufactured, if you walk in a Walmart or a Target today, everything you see, it took oil to get it there to your shelf. Like I said earlier, it took oil to put the plastic on it, oil to get the machine to come and drop it off, right? Oil, whether it was a plane, whether it was a truck, whatever, took oil to get there, oil to make, oil to manufacture, oil to package, oil to wrap, oil to ship, all that took oil. It took oil for the warehouse workers to get to the doggone warehouse to package the stuff. Okay, so everything uses oil, so it's not just the gas prices we see that are affected, right? So just something to keep in mind. So don't just think it's just the fuel in your car that's affected by oil supply, the cost of oil, et cetera, demand for oil. But right now, there's a lot of things that are affecting us heavily, and all those things could play a small role in these inflation numbers, right? I just want to bring this clearer picture to you about what's happening, what these latest inflation numbers mean for us. It means that prices will continue to remain somewhat elevated, right? In terms of the increases that we see in prices, somewhat elevated. Again, month over month is increased. CPI and core, slightly, 0.3%, but still increased, right? And for CPI, a little higher than what was expected. For core, it was increased, but that was kind of what was expected for core, okay, core PCE. So again, the open market committee is going to meet in 3 weeks, and they'll have to decide, right? Let me know in the comments, guys. Do you think interest rates will be raised again? Okay. Federal fund. Now, when I say raise interest rates again, let me just clarify. I mean raising the Fed funds rate. Guys, do me a favor. Smash the like button below. Please hit the like button. Please share the link to this video with your network of folks, guys. Very important. That pushes this video out to more and more folks. And we want to get more people hearing just basic common sense, regular plain language conversations about what's happening in our U.S. economy. So it's not anything overly technical, not anything overly intricate, right? Basic information for basic people with basic money, right? Now, when I say the Fed raising the interest rates on the Fed funds rate, the Fed funds rate is the rate that these commercial banks, they charge each other to get money from each other. Every single day, they're charging somebody money. They're charging other banks for overnight lending. Okay, so when they charge other banks for overnight lending, there's an interest rate that they must charge that other bank. Okay, that interest rate is called the Fed funds rate. That's the interest rate that the Federal Reserve levies on banks for lending to each other. And of course, that trickles down and affects us because those banks, they don't just lend to each other and charge each other higher rates and lose profits every day, right? They turn around and charge us for short-term lending increased amounts. When the Fed funds rate goes up, they charge us more for short-term lending, right? They make money cost more for us because it costs more for them. And so they pass that cost on to us, right? So we pay more for short-term loans when the Fed funds rate is increased by the Federal Reserve. So like your credit card interest rates. Your credit card interest rates are going to go up slightly, right? They're not going to make any big announcement or send you a pamphlet in the mail, but they're going to go up slightly, and you may not even see it on your statement. But they're going to go up slightly because the banks are trying to offset the cost of their rate that went up when they loaned money or received loans from other banks overnight, right? So short-term interest rates go up. Short-term loans, the rates on short-term loans go up. Automobile loans, right, that you may get from a lending institution is going to increase, right? Instead of going out and getting that 2.3%, 5%, now you're going to get a 6%, 8%, 9%. Again, they're passing the cost on to me and you, right? Those loans that are 3 to 5 or 6 year loans, right? Those are considered your short-term loans. Obviously, credit cards are, shorter than that, right? All of that is affected by the Fed funds rate. That's why it's very important about the decision they make on October 31st. Are they going to increase that rate, Fed funds rate, or are they going to leave it the same like they did last month? They didn't touch it, right? Money becomes more expensive for us to borrow. Again, last month they said we're going to leave it, but we're thinking that they're going to have one more rate hike this year before the end of the year. They got 2 more meetings this year, one in October. I think there's one in November as well, right? Remains to be seen, right? I think a pullback is definitely coming from the Fed in 2024. right? That's what I really believe, that they're going to pull back and maybe even decrease rates in 2024, right? Of course, what's happening next year, guys, in America? What's the big thing happening in America next year? Anybody know? What's the big thing happening in America in 2024? It's called somebody give it to me. What's happening in 2024 that's going to make a lot of this come into play? See if you guys can answer that for me. Well, what's happening in 2024, guys, the huge thing that's happening in 2024, and why we may see some rate cuts, is because of, yes, Spencer George, the election is coming, right? Actually, the presidential election is coming in America in 2024. And so a lot of times you see some moves and some shifts happening right around election time. When we had those midterms last year, guess what happened right around those midterms last year? When we were trying to see if there's going to be a Republican-led House or a Democratic-led House and all this stuff, guess what happened? OPEC Plus said, we're going to cut the supply of oil, increasing your gas prices. And so what did the current president go out and do? He went out and said, we're going to not flood, but we're going to add oil, and we're going to get it from our strategic petroleum reserves. What they call SPR, those strategic petroleum reserves, is America's emergency oil. He added emergency oil. I think the OPEC Plus did that during election time for a reason, right? But he turned around and added new oil to our oil supply that helped keep the cost of gas down right as an election was about to happen. You're going to see some things happen, guys, during election year that don't normally happen, okay? So right now, just to point this out, guys, the stock market is sort of assuming that the Fed will leave rates alone. I think it's I don't know exact numbers. I don't want to tell you that, but it's greater than a 60 or 70% chance, I believe. The stock market prices in what they think will happen with the Fed's increase or not increase of the federal funds rate. Right now, the odds are that the Fed will leave rates alone and will not increase rates. Again, I sort of disagree with that, but I stand to be corrected if I'm wrong, right? I'm going against the grain a little bit by going against the odds. But the stock market prices those things in, and right now the stock market is saying they won't touch rates. And they may not touch rates because of I did a video yesterday, a couple of days ago, what have you, about, the housing market. The bond market is high. And the more they touch those rates, it affects the bond market, it affects the housing market, and it throws things into a tizzy, right? So the Fed may say, hey, let's not touch rates, right? Because we see inflation's coming down. We know about the outliers that made this last month or two go up a little bit. So all of this remains to be seen. But our job as citizens is to, understand what's happening. Because ultimately, the fall guy in all of this is us, our money, right? What we do, what happens with our money, what it costs to go to the store and get a loaf of bread, right? That's going to ultimately be the trickle down and result of all of these moves being made by the Fed or not being made by the Fed, all right? Let's do a little Q&A, guys. Let's jump into the comment section, see if you guys had a few questions for me, because I want to kind of answer a few things for you guys. And I like to, I try to have these conversations about the topic. But if we're off topic, that's cool too, because sometimes I just like to have a conversation with you guys and so forth. So let me see if you guys got a question. Put a Q in the chat box for me, and let me see if I can answer just a few questions for you guys. Let's see. D. Grant. Good evening, LD Sims. Good to have you, man. D. Grant says, is it a good idea that Biden is trying to cancel student loans? I think that ship has sort of sailed, right? In other words, I think the Supreme Court voted or struck down the canceling of all student loans. Now, don't get me wrong. There's been a SAVE program and some other programs put forth to alleviate student loans. But I think the Supreme Court said the president does not have the power to do that. That's something that has to go through Congress, and Congress ain't voting for that right now. So I think, is it a good idea? Hey, I paid my student loans off. I know other people paid their student loans off. I don't I don't I don't necessarily believe that student loans need to be paid off. Most people that default on student loans have like $20,000 of student loan or less, $15,000 of student loans or less. Most people that default on student loans don't owe that much. And I say that much. 20,000 is a lot of money. I totally get it, but over a time it can be paid off. So whether or not you pay, I think it's good for people, right, to have student loans, get the student loan paid off if it's a little bit. I'm not against that at all. I'm not a person that's against it. I just don't know that it's necessary for most folks, especially when you earn up to $125,000 a year or 240, whatever the word. The plan was any couple that made less than $240,000 a year would get their 10,000 of their student loans wiped out. How much is $10,000, guys? That's not a whole lot of money. If you owe $60,000 and they wipe off 10,000, it helps. Don't get me wrong. Every little bit helps. But is it going to make a big dent? For some people, it would. For some people, it would knock out their whole deal. So I don't want to belittle it. I just want to say that, hey, one way or the other, I'm not for it. I'm not against it. I'm okay with it if people use it to their advantage and use it to knock off 10,000. So I'm okay with it. So let's see here. Question, get the memo. How do you think housing prices will fall? I think housing prices will fall a tiny bit. I think we got to be careful, though, right? We just don't know that for sure. I think they'll fall a little bit, and I just don't think they'll increase as fast as they had been, obviously. There's a lot going on in the housing market with the supply being so low and all those types of things, guys. Builders are really hurting right now. There's a lot of us that are looking and saying, well, who wants to give up our 3%, 4% interest rate for an 8% interest rate? So, again, Fed funds rate does not affect directly the mortgage rates. Okay, mortgage rates are tied to the U.S. Treasury. The Fed funds rate does not directly affect them, but it sort of indirectly affects them, right? Think about this. The Fed funds rate started at near 0% 2 years ago or so. Now it's up to 5.25%. At the same time, mortgage rates was about 2.5%, 3% 2 years ago, year and a half ago. Now they're up near 8%. So do they affect them directly? No, but they indirectly have an effect on the mortgage rate. So all of that is sort of tied together. Okay, put a Q next to a question, guys. Let's go ahead and have a little back and forth because I kind of love to see how you guys are thinking. Election. Most of you are saying election. Yep, reading those. Hey, how you doing, Maria? Good to have you in here. There's going to be something crazy going to happen with the election next year for sure. Let's see. Q, do you have a preferred high interest savings account provider? I don't have a preferred HYSA, guys, high yield savings account. I think there's a ton of them out there. Do your research, right? All high yield savings accounts are not equal. So there's a little bit of give and take on those. Okay. Make sure you're doing your research and you're doing your due diligence on them as well. Okay. So as you go along and you're thinking about where I should park money and get maybe a 4%, 5%, maybe a 3%, but keep in mind, okay, that type of yield on a savings account may not last long. Okay, just keep that in mind because we never know. This time next year, those 4% high yield savings accounts that weren't real popular, at one point 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 5 years ago, we could turn around next year at this time, and those high yield savings accounts may not be given what they're given right now in terms of returns. So just keep that in mind as well. Let's see here. Let's see, Jared. Many regions still have a housing shortage. Yeah, most regions around America have a serious supply issue. When we say supply, we mean there's not a lot of inventory that's out there right now. So just keep that in mind, guys. Good comment. Universal Truth question. How far do you see Fed mortgage rates falling next year? Great question. Me personally, I see them dipping a little bit. 4.25. The Fed funds rates are always in a range, guys. So right now it's a range between 5.25 or 5.5. So next year, 4.25, 4.5. That might be a stretch. That might be a little more than what they fall next year. But I do see 2026, 2027. I don't see rates getting back down to where they were, but I do see Fed funds rate coming down just a tad bit over the next several years. Let's see here. Question. Jerry said, do you think a cash out refi is a smart move to pay off debts? knowing the housing market, valuations are inflated and eventually go back down. Cash out refi to pay off debt, it depends on other factors, right? How much debt do you have? If you have 200,000, do you have 10,000? Do you make enough money, earn enough income, and can just dial back your lifestyle a little bit and still pay off that 10 grand, right? Where you don't have to touch and do and how long do you plan to stay in the home? Because a refi is going to cost you $2, $3, $4, $5, $6,000, right? To refi. Are you going to be there to recover the cost of that refi, right? So lots of variables there. I'm not a big fan of pulling money out just to pay off debt. I'm not a big fan of robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? Switching money around. That's really all you're doing, right? You're moving money around and having access. You're getting immediate access to some equity in your home to pay off some debt. How long do you plan on staying in the house? Are you going to be there 15, 20 years the rest of your life? And are you going to put it back on a 15-year note? But right now, you're doing a cash out refi right now, and you're getting you may be going from a 3% mortgage or a 4% mortgage to an 8% mortgage. Probably not a good move, right? Just to pay off some debt, take on another $700 a month mortgage payment just to go pay off some debt. I don't necessarily think that might be a great move. Obviously, refiing right now is not a great move, but because you're probably going to be refining to a larger interest rate. So probably not a good move right now. And depending on other factors, it may not be a good move in general, right? Based on other factors. If you make $100,000 a year and, you live pretty frugally, can you go ahead and just pay off the 10K in debt or 20K in debt instead of taking on another $700 a month in mortgage payment because you wanted to refi, but now you got an 8% mortgage rate as opposed to a 3% mortgage rate? Lots of variables there. Something to think about. Great question, though, Jerry. Thanks for asking that. Let's see. What is the best way to pay for 50K plus in cash? What is the best way? Hucklebuck asks. What is the best way to play? What is the best play? I'm sorry, for $50,000 plus in cash, with rates on real estate being so high. You might ask that question again, Hucklebuck, because I really didn't quite understand it. Yeah, Angie said I really wouldn't pull all my money out right now, especially if you have a low interest rate. Amen to that, Angie, right? I don't want to, hey, I got a 3% rate on my mortgage. I'm not about to refi and pull no money out because I'm just putting that money right back in with those increased payments, right? I'm losing that money again. So I don't think I'd do that as well. Put a Q next to your question, guys. I want to answer your question real quick. And whether it's about CPI inflation report or core inflation report, U.S. economy, anything, feel free to plug it in. I kind of use Thursdays, guys, as a free-for-all just to kind of have these conversations. Don't forget to smash the like button below. Get your free copy. If you haven't done this, go to the description box. Free copy of 24 Laws of Money. It's an ebook, right? And it's in the description box below. These are the 24 Laws of Principles are the principles. 24 Laws of Money are the principles of money that I used on my financial journey from a negative $30,000 net worth to a seven-figure net worth. And so those are principles that I stand by and believe with my soul. So get that free ebook, right? My gift to you. Don't forget to join this channel. We're going to be doing our first live on Sunday for members only on this channel. The members only, we're going to be doing it at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time this Sunday. I'm going to go behind the scenes of my own personal net worth. I'm going to just show you my net worth, show you my numbers, and that's only going to be for the folks that are members that have joined this YouTube group, because I want to go behind the scenes a little bit with those folks and also do some one-on-one coaching, some personal coaching live in there. But so keep that in mind, guys. Join the group. Doesn't take a whole lot to join the group. A monthly you'll see it in the deal, but you'll get the very first video that we're doing for members only. Going to be just kind of opening up, unveiling a lot about my personal finances. So you can see that when I say I went from negative 30,000 to a seven-figure net worth, you'll see exactly what I'm telling you in all black and white right there on the screen. Also, Mint Mobile, guys. Again, don't forget Mint Mobile in the description box below. We're going to answer a few more of your questions, guys. Don't forget. So put a Q next to your question. But don't forget to sign up for Mint Mobile in the description box below. All right, 100% legit, and you can save a ton on your wireless. Let's go back to your questions, guys. Okay. So appreciate it, Jerry. You're the man too, Jerry. Absolutely. God bless you too, brother. All right. Question from Future Beauty. Sorry about that. Freudian slip, huh? What is your take on the average person who is barely making it with monthly rents? Most 2 to 3 bedroom apartments are around $1,900, $2,500. Okay. Here's the deal, Future Beauty. Here's the deal. Have you thought about relocating, right? You say most 2 and 3 bedroom apartments around $1,900 to $2,500. Probably not everywhere. So you may have to pick up and go somewhere where you can afford the rents. Okay. That's the first thing, right? If you can't afford the city that you're living in, you may have to relocate, whether it's 30 miles south, 45 miles north, 10 miles east, or whether it's a whole nother state, whole nother city. You may have to kind of relocate. I know that's hard to hear for a lot of people, but people have been relocating for financial reasons for thousands of years, right? So if you can't afford it, that's the first thing to consider. Can I go somewhere else? But the second thing to consider is, okay, how do I maybe earn some additional income? That's a second possibility, right? Earning some additional income. The third thing is, how can I maybe partner with some other people to maybe slash the cost of a 2-bedroom or 3? Maybe instead of a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, you say, you know what, for now, because rents are so high and I don't make enough money, I need to go down to a studio apartment that's $1,400 a month or $1,500 a month. What I'm telling you here is, Future Beauty, you have to make some adjustments, right? You got to shift, right? You got to be a little uncomfortable, right? This is my take on the average person who's barely making it with monthly rents. You have to shift and change your game plan. You may not be able to live in that 3-bedroom apartment with that big old living room and them 2 working bathrooms. Everything's in that nice area that you really want to live in. That was 5 minutes from everything you like to do, all the restaurants and stuff. All right, you're gonna have to shift. You may have to get a certification, right? Increase your income because you got more schooling, you got more skills, right? So you've got to we ain't changing the rents. We're not changing how much those rents are right there. They're going to be there. You can write your city alderman. You can write your mayor. You can go down and talk to your city council person. They ain't changing the rents. So that means you have to change. That means you got to shift. That means you got to do something different, right? So what can you do different to either afford it or to go somewhere else where you can't afford? Again, maybe you don't have a 2 or 3 bedroom. And even if you have, even if you have 5 kids, right? Sometimes I came up in the era, guys, where you do what you got to do to survive. That means if you got to put 7 people in a 2-bedroom apartment, you do what you got to do. I mean, sometimes I hate that that's what it is, right? But it is what it is, and we can't change what's going on with the rents right now. So that's my suggestion, guys, to folks that may be having, average person who can't really afford the rent right now. You got to make some adjustments. Maybe take a roommate on, 2 roommates, right? So, hey, good to have you in here, Sim. Investment play. Hucklebuck reacts the whole question with a Q behind it so I can understand it. I really want to help you on that question. It looks like a good one. Okay, Jerry said 3.75 to 6.13 was offered, taking 40K out. Excuse me. I don't think I'd do it right now, Jerry. I don't think I'd increase my rate by that percentage points and pull out that cash just to pay off debt right now. Because the extra increase he said his mortgage payment is going to go up by $620. Okay, if your mortgage payment is going to go up by $620, why don't you just take the $620 right now and pay off the debt? Right? If the mortgage payment is going to go up by $620, just take that $620 and pay off the debt a little slower. It may take you 2 years, 3 years, right? That might be a better thing to do as opposed to go ahead and getting that larger rate right now. Okay. Let's see here. Question: mutual funds usage. C. Langley, you got to explain what you mean by that question. Let's see here. Hey, Righteous is in Jackson, Mississippi. Check it in. Good to have you. All right. Family from Batesville, Mississippi, just north of Jackson, by the way. Let's see here. Miss V Move. Hey, good to have you here. Miss V Move, your body is in the house. Good to have you. Glad to have you here and appreciate your support. Absolutely. Let's see here. And Miss Angie, or Angie said, my best saving strategy was cutting out all the impulse buying and really thinking about it. Absolutely huge, guys. Impulse buying will get you. Every time you go to the grocery store, they put all that stuff up front by you by the checkout. That's because impulse buying. That's where they have all the candy and the sweet stuff, right? They rarely have fruits and vegetables right up front, right? You never see like the frozen peas section right there by the register. There's a reason, because everybody, their impulse is sweetness. So what do they have? The cookie, the M&Ms. They have the chewing gum, all the sweet stuff that is right there by the register, because that's your impulse, right? They study you and they know you better than you know yourself in terms of your spending habits. Future Beauty, absolutely. You're welcome. My pleasure. She said, don't move to Seattle. One bedroom is $2,200 and above. Yeah. Seattle, downtown Boston, right? Downtown Manhattan, right? You name all the large cities at, San Diego, right? Everything along the coast, a lot of stuff along the coast, right? And parts of Florida as well. Everything can be expensive right now. And she said, Miss V said, house hack, which is an excellent suggestion. Like I said, house hack, right? Let's see here. Boom, boom. Downsizing is better than living in the streets. Absolutely, Angie. Good point. Historically, it wasn't unusual to have 8+ people in a 3 or 4 bed. Look, you go to Japan right now, guys. Go over to Japan and look how they're packed in houses and apartments and so forth, right? I mean, it may become the new norm here in America, where you live with 3 or 4 people. I know somebody lives in D.C. and 2 people, but one person in particular, this guy I know in D.C., he rents a flat, but he also has roommates. He subleases, right? So he leases and he subleases. So you may have to do that, right? Let's say you have a home and you can't really afford, or you're renting out a home, ask your landlord if you can sublease. Maybe you can sublease and get some renters in and staying in some rooms. And you charge a little bit less for those rooms they stay in, right? You don't charge the $1,500 or $2,000. You charge them $700, right? And they help you pay the mortgage, right? Or the rent itself. So there's a lot of ways. When prices are high like they are right now, guys, we have to be more creative. We have to really use our creative side to figure out how we're going to get this thing done. And we're going to be inconvenienced a little bit as well, right? Nothing wrong with it being a little bit of sacrifice right now will push you to where you want to be. And when I say sacrifice, I was talking earlier about that. I'm saying maybe you do something now, but in the same time, don't just change and be flexible, but now you begin to put together a plan for yourself in the meantime. So while you're renting your other bedrooms out, or while you're sharing a room, or while you're living with parents, be developing a plan so that in 5 years you can afford what you want. In 3 or 4 years, you can afford what you want. Now, what that plan looks like is different for each individual. That plan could be more schooling. It could be that certification. It could be that whatever it may be, right? Lots of things, but a little bit of sacrifice now goes a long way down in the future, right? Hucklebuck said, okay, what is a better investment play? Here you go. Thanks for re-asking that. What is a better investment play with $50,000 to $100,000 in cash on the sideline with real estate rates being so high right now? So a good play with real estate may be just to hold tight and see what happens. Hold tight and see what happens. I can tell you, if you're interested in commercial real estate, right, there's going to be, what did they say? Was it $1 trillion? There's going to be a ton of commercial real estate that will go on sale in the next year to year and a half. There's going to be tons of commercial real estate that's going to be, where the notes and the loans are going to be coming due. When they come due, guess what's going to happen? There'll be a lot of foreclosures in the commercial real estate industry. Do your research on that and look into that, because what's a lot of people doing? They're working from home. And when you work from home, that leaves a lot of empty real estate in buildings, right? Do your research, guys. Google it if you want. Maybe I'll do a video about it. But the commercial real estate industry is about to see a ton of foreclosures. you may be able to get some things super duper inexpensive in that direction. So keep that in mind, Hucklebuck. But right now, I would say just hang tight, see what happens over the next 3 or 4, 5, 6 months. Don't let the money burn a hole in your pocket, right? Don't wait forever. Don't just let it sit there forever. But if you got an extra 50 or 100K, you might look at real estate in the next several months. I don't think real estate's going to crash. I'm not saying that. Always be on the lookout for foreclosures and things like that as well. Also, nothing wrong with the auctions, the courthouse steps. Right? If you're looking to get into real estate, you don't always have to buy you never want to buy real estate retail. Never want to, if you're trying to invest in real estate, guys, little real estate tip, you never want to buy real estate retail. The whole goal of buying real estate is to buy real estate at as steep a discount as literally possible, right? Steep discounts is what you want when you purchase real estate. Stop trying to buy real estate at the top of the price. You don't buy anything high, right? You buy it low. That's why you look for unconventional sellers, right? Oh, I've been trying to get rid of. I used to do bird dogging. Drive around neighborhoods. Oh, that's really ran down. Let me see who owns that. Let me give them a call. That still works. Question from Jerry: any tips on how to renegotiate credit card rates with the carriers to help pay off debts owed to them? No, I have no tips on that, Jerry. Jerry, I wish I could. There's probably a lot of ways to do that, right? But I haven't owned a credit card since 2011. I haven't used a credit card since 2011, right? So I don't have a lot of tips on how to negotiate with them. You said lost my job and minimum payments don't even pinch a dent. I totally get it. I totally understand that. The best thing I would tell you, Jerry, is you got to start working. You got to start bringing in some income and start attacking them and paying more than the minimums. You can always try to go. Somebody in the chat might know how to remedy that. Has done some negotiation with creditors for credit cards. I really haven't, so I can't really address that. I don't know what that's like, unfortunately. One thing I try to do on this channel is I try to stay in my lane, and I try to talk about things that I know about and what I've done and so forth. And if I ain't done it, I don't want to dig too deep in it because I don't want to give you wrong information. I want to set you on the right path for success. But there may be somebody in the chat that can help out Jerry with his question about negotiating with credit card debtors. T. Marie said, I'm moving in with my mom for 8 months, cutting my overhead. I know that's right. Cutting overhead and paying off car adjustments. T. Marie, fantastic. Congratulations to you. Make sure you use that time to develop a plan so that you're not poor and you can, grow and make more money and increase your income, etc. C. Langley said, I use my mutual fund as a savings account, emergency fund. Is it wrong? Sort of. Yeah, I would take my emergency fund and make them separate. Your emergency fund is your mutual fund is for investing and growing money. Your savings account is saving for large purchases, maybe a sinking fund. And then third, 3 separate, your emergency fund is for things that go wrong. I would have all 3 of them separate. I would not put them together, right? When you put them together, you just blur the lines, right? You just blur the lines. Oh, that's not really an emergency. Maybe it's my savings, right? And so now you're trying to figure out, should I just make them separate? Never touch the mutual fund. Keep putting into that. Let it grow. Never touch the savings account until you've built up enough money to buy whatever you're trying to buy. Never touch the emergency fund unless you have a bona fide, full, blown out emergency and you need money immediately. Keep them separate. That's my opinion. In fact, I would keep if you want to have a sinking fund, that's cool. I don't really have a sinking fund, but if you don't have a sinking fund, anything large that you're saving for, just put it all towards your mutual fund. Or put it all towards your emergency fund until you have, 4, 5, 6 months of emergency saved up. And then everything else go into your mutual fund, right? But if you want to have the extra cushion of savings, that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. But just do them all separate. That's what I would do. Hope that answered your question. Okay, let's see here. Mike said, I loved your Know Your Numbers video. Could you talk a bit more about how your numbers interact with each other? 7-figure net worth is different if you are carrying large debt. Yeah, absolutely. I don't have any debt the only debt I have is on anything going up in value. I have 3 pieces of property, 2 rental properties, 1 primary residence. That's what I have debt on. And I have a little bit of debt on each one, not a lot. But you're right, though. If you have so my 7-figure net worth is my total assets minus my total liabilities is over 7 figures. Okay. So when you do that configuration, that math problems, right? That math problem. So, but how the numbers interact with each other, let me know kind of sort of what you mean by that question, Mike. But I do know that your assets minus your liabilities equals your net worth. You got to know all three. Your income and your expenses. Your income minus your expenses leaves your discretionary income. You got to know all three: income, expenses, and discretionary. What's left over, right? That's kind of how they interact with each other. Powell said, we Asian people are already packing family members in one household. Nobody's moving out until the father says so, right? Yeah, but you're right. You're making adjustments, right? You're making adjustments to offset the higher cost of living, the higher cost of rents. And that's what it's all about. Flexibility, guys, is so important. When it comes to your money, you have to be flexible. We can't change the inflation. We can't change it. We can't change the cost of housing, right? We can't change the mortgage interest rates. We can't change any of that in and of ourselves, right? What all we can do is be flexible. As I said on another video, listen, the best coaches in the world, the best coaches, any sport, soccer, football, basketball, baseball, the best coaches in the world, they make adjustments. They're flexible. They can shift on the fly at halftime. They can come out after halftime and do something totally different than what they were doing at the beginning of the game. That's what we got to do. At the beginning of the game, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we could afford the rents. Now it's halftime. We got to shift how we do things. We got to be flexible. We got to be creative and try something different and new. Be a little uncomfortable for a minute until we can get back to where we want to be. Right? Same concept. All right. Buying a used Toyota Prius added $200 a month to my budget. Yeah, that'll happen. I say buy it cash. Inflation in Brazil always falls after an interest rate tightening. Yeah. That does happen in Brazil, right? Future Beauty, okay, thank you. I live on the West Coast. I didn't mean to change something. No, it's okay. I don't mind you asking questions that are not on the CPI inflation. That's cool because I'm here to do a general Q&A along with talking about where we are with inflation. So both work. Hey, get the memo. You're the man, all right? Appreciate you here. Get the memo. All right. Illinois tax dodger by moving to Florida saved me $180 a week in state taxes. I think Florida is one of those states with no state taxes. So nice move by doing that, Illinois. In motorcycles, everybody's not willing to move, right? I understand everybody's not in a position to move, right? You got daycare that you're tied to, or you have a grandmother who takes care of your children for you, and you may not have the skills to go other places. Totally understand it, right? But the deal is that we should be preparing. If you take nothing else from this video, we need to be preparing ourselves by increasing our skills to have choices, right? To have different decisions that we can make. We do that by being flexible, but also by preparing ourselves to increase our skills, right? That's huge. Somebody said, Maria, currently in training as an insurance agent. Congratulations to you, Maria. I'm receiving severance pay and unemployment. Never worked in a commission only. Commission only is good. I like commission only because that means the harder you work, the better you work, the more efficient you work, the better you get, the more you make. I really enjoy doing that, but it can be a little scary if you're doing it for the first time. Just believe in who you are, Maria. That's the biggest thing. You got to believe and have confidence when you're commission sales and learn as much as possible. Okay. Be good. Know your stuff. That's the kicker. Know your stuff. Study constantly. Get better, right? Prepare. And you'll be just fine. And guys, don't forget, you got to smash the like button. I keep saying it, but it's super important that you hit that like button and that you share this link with your family, with your network, in your Facebook group, on your IG, wherever it may be. TikTok, right? Let's see here. Buy on sale, not for sale. Okay. Yep. This is why it's best to live below your means, because inflation is always going to be a thing. Righteous and masculine, excellent comment. Inflation's always going to be there, right? This is why I stress on this channel personal responsibility. And I know, listen, guys, I know you might beat me up, but personal responsibility is so important. And those personal responsibility can be like a curse word to some people nowadays, right? When you talk about, taking responsibility for where you are and what you do and all that. But if you're rocking with me on this channel and you understand what I'm telling you and what I'm trying to push you guys and influence and inspire you guys to do and motivate you to do, you'll understand that the only thing you can really worry about is the thing that's under your control. And the thing that's under your control is you, your behavior, how you behave with money, what you decide to do with money. Do you plan? Do you not plan? Do you do a budget? Do you not do a budget? Do you actually track what you spend? Do you not track what you spend, right? Do you live below your means or do you live above your means on credit cards every month, right? You control all of that. And all of that is what matters most for your personal finances. I understand inflation is high. I understand there's sexism, ageism, racism. All those isms exist. I don't deny that. I don't have my head buried in the sand, right? I've been poor. I understand how poor people are treated. I understand how poor people think, right? I understand what happens in the societal pressures and all the societal things that come down. But guess what? Nobody is standing above you, guarding you and telling you, don't watch that podcast. Don't take those notes. Don't learn. Don't read. Don't understand. Don't ask questions. Don't join that local landlord association. Don't go to that webinar. Don't get that certification. Don't get that college degree. Don't get those skills. Nobody is doing any of that to you. Nobody. So because nobody is doing any of that to you, all those things are open to you, which means the ultimate decision about what happens with your money is on the person in the mirror. I stress that a lot because you hear so many people nowadays look at all the problems in the world and in the society and in the culture and in the finances of the state, the city, the county government. All those things are going on, but you can't do nothing about any of that stuff, right? You can't do anything about it. But what you can do something about is what you spend every month and that $2,000 you bring in every month, or that $4,000 that you actually earn every single month. That's what you can do something about. So, I'm a big proponent of accountability. Call me weird, call me strange. I may lose subscribers because of that, but that doesn't matter. I present who I am, and if you rock with me, you rock with me. If you don't, that's okay. I may not be everybody's cup of tea, and I'm okay with that. Jerry, thank you, bro. Appreciate you. And I try to keep it real, right? I don't pull any punches. I'm not going to sell you a bunch of seminars. I'm not going to sell you. This is the beauty in what I do. I'm not going to sell you a bunch of courses, right? Now, I do one-on-one personal financial mentoring and coaching, and I charge for that because I use 90 minutes to 2 hours of my time. So I do charge you for that, right? If you want to have a 15-minute conversation with me about your personal finances, I charge you for that because you got to join the channel at the highest tier. Join the channel and we can do that. But I don't earn a living off trying to teach or trying to sell you anything. I have a job, a good job. I've been on my job for years and years and years, okay? And I like my job. I enjoy my job. But at the same time, I'm here just to primarily help people. That's all I'm here for, is to help as many people as possible think differently about their money. Because I get tired of seeing people lose with money when they don't have to be losing with money. If you just understand a few principles that I try to share with you guys on this channel, you don't have to lose with money. Money is for you. The universe is for you. God is for you, right? And so a lot of people losing, but if they just change their thinking and their approach, you can start winning. And that's all I'm here for, is to help you win with money. Mutual fund. Somebody questioned a mutual fund. S. Dot did. Mutual fund is just it's a bucket full of different types of stocks thrown into one bucket. That's all a mutual fund is. Think of a mutual fund as a bucket with about 100, 200 different stocks thrown in there, individual stocks thrown in that mutual. And then a mutual fund, somebody has to manage that bucket. What stocks are coming in, what stocks are going out. That's a mutual fund, right? A sinking fund is just something that you want to save for, something that you're saving for, or you know is coming around. Christmas comes around once a year, same time every year. You can have a Christmas funds type of sinking fund, right? Where you put $50 a month towards that so you have money to go buy Christmas gifts. Or you need to have another refrigerator at your home, and if refrigerators cost a couple $1,000s, you're putting money to the side for that. That's a sinking fund, right? You're going to ultimately pull the money out of that fund and watch it sink, right? Let's see here. Question. My mom wants me to move in with her in her house so that I can save money, which means more cash to put in stocks a month. But I love being on my own. I have no debt, make close to 6 figures. How old are you, D. Grant? And not just how old are you, but can you tolerate living with your mother? That's really what it boils down. I see nothing wrong with that. If you're 30, 40 years old, listen, again, we got to be flexible, right? If you're 30 or 40 years old and your mom is willing to allow you to move in and where you can save money and you can build up your stock portfolio or whatever, I have no problem with doing that. Personal finance is personal. I'm not the guy that says when you get 25, you need to get out on your own. No, you do what works for you. Personal finance is personal. If it works for you and your parent, maybe your mom wants to have someone around to keep her company, and maybe you want to save some money and it's a win-win situation, go for it. Do it. Nothing wrong with it. But you got to be willing to do or put up with living at home with your parent, right? If you can do that, then I say go for it. Absolutely. But just make sure you have those conversations, that communication, all that is open. Everybody knows what's going on. It's all on the table, right? And you're helping around the house. You're not only giving money, but maybe you're doing things. You're not just partying at the house all night and all day and all that type of stuff. You're respectful, right? I'm old school. All right, so let's see here. Somebody says play the market cycles or invest steadily. Invest steadily. Don't play the market cycles. Dollar cost average. That's it. Steady. You don't have to get fancy. You don't have to leak over to crypto. You ain't got to go do Forex. You don't have to trade options. You don't have to trade futures. Keep it simple. Steady invest. Long period of time. Keep it simple. Good to have you, Lauren. Glad you're here. And see, what I found over the years is that my net worth number was useless to me until I put that up against my expenses and my savings rate. Just knowing one number itself is not very useful. True. Got to know them all. That's why I put the video out there. Know all 12. Let's see here. Good point. Let's see. I don't know your credit history, but I would say, okay, she's answering Jerry. All right. Thank you. Negotiate a better term. Good. Put a Q by your question, guys. There's always opportunities to save. Absolutely. Let's see here. Thanks for these live chats. I'm glad these live chats help, because I want to be a person that you guys feel like is a real human being and not just somebody who's hide behind videos that you can't reach out, you can't talk to, you can't have a conversation with. I'm just a regular guy that did a few good things with my money and made a lot of mistakes, but I did a few good things and they propelled me. And I'm not special. I'm not anything special. I'm not above anybody. I'm just a regular guy trying to help regular folks. So I appreciate you appreciating me. Let's see here. Continue reading an educational program. Speaking truth, no doubt. Let's see here. I know I'm probably skipping some, guys, so bear with me if I don't get to your particular question. Buy and hold is always great. Always great. I'm a big buy and hold guy. I'm a buy and hold guy when it comes to the stock market, and I'm a buy and hold guy when it comes to real estate. I'm just a long-term. I'm a person that it doesn't take a lot. I don't need a lot of stuff, right? I don't wear jewelry. I don't have fancy cars. I don't need a lot of stuff to be joyful or have joy in my life, right? Just the real basics, right? So that's why but I understand if you're a person that likes a lot of those things, there's nothing wrong with it. Again, personal finance is personal. So yeah, like I said before, if you guys want to chime in with me and see my numbers on Sunday, all you got to do is join the channel. And you'll be able to have a chance to see my personal financial numbers, to be transparent. I want to be as transparent as possible with you guys. But and so we'll reveal all the net worth numbers, and I'll talk about quite a bit about how they came about, what I do. I'm going to share my screen and show you guys kind of how I figure it and what they are. And the reason I'm doing that right now, again, full transparency, is I really figure my net worth twice a year. Sometime in April, March, sometime in August, September, really September. And so I'm a little past due for that. So I figured instead of doing a video for the whole world, let's just do a video for those that have committed as members to join this YouTube channel. Let's do a video with us. And right now, we just opened this up and we don't have a whole bunch of people in there, but that's okay because I'm going to hit it hard whether I have 2 people in the chat or whether I have 200 people in the chat, right? I'm still going to hit it hard. I'm still going to do exactly what I do right here regardless. The difference is if you're in that group, it's more one-on-one. It's more personal. So if it's only 5 or 6 or 10 of us in there, then I'm going to be able to answer your question. I'm going to be able to really focus in and hone in on exactly what you're asking, what you want, and what you think. And we're going to be more personal because there's less people in there for us to answer questions to, right? So keep that in mind, guys. That's open to you guys to join, and we're going to have some fun in there and really go behind the scenes. We're going to ultimately go behind the scenes with investing. Like I said, we're going to do some live coaching in that group as well so that we can help folks out on an individual basis because everybody's situation is different, right? Yeah, guys, let's get the likes up. If you have not hit the like button, do me a small favor. Smash that like button for me, right? We gotta tell the algorithm that this is important stuff. These general Q&As like this are helping people and can help a lot of people, right? And I plan on Saturday. Let me give you another preview. On Saturday, guys, I got a doozy plan for you guys on Saturday. Saturday, 11 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time, I'm going to be doing another live. You're not going to want to, you don't want to miss that live, okay? Because I'm going to be, I don't even want to say it, but I'm going to be talking about something that's pretty important, has to do with your money, and I'm going to be giving it to you pretty raw, okay? Pretty point blank in terms of just check us out. You need to, and you'll see you'll see that come across your YouTube feed. Maybe by the end of the day or tomorrow, you see it coming across your YouTube feed that we're going to do a live on Saturday. The members only is on Sunday at 11 a.m. I'm sorry, at 1 p.m. And the live on Saturday is at 11 o'clock a.m. So you do not want to miss that. It's very, very important, and it's a doozy. All right. Somebody said, how long should you hold a stock before you sell? And I think somebody said buy and hold. Yeah, I'm big on buy and hold. You don't lose money, and you really don't make money or lose money until you actually sell. You make money on paper, you lose money on paper. But I like to buy and hold. And I don't have a whole bunch of individual stocks. I only do a few stocks. I do a lot of index funds and so forth. Thank you for being here, Jared. JT, glad to have you. JT Coin Rings. So happy to have you here, man. Shout out to you. I appreciate your support. He's been rocking with me since I didn't have any subscribers. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your support. Again, man, thanks for being in the live chat with me. And I appreciate all the good, positive messages you put out as well. Lauren said, how limited is Mint Mobile for Enter B? What is Enter B? I'm not sure what that is. Mint Mobile is pretty solid, though, man. I've enjoyed my service with Mint Mobile, guys. Inexpensive plans. Here's what Mint Mobile does. They don't have these retail stores, and they don't have salespeople. And so because their customer service is still very good. So because they don't have those things, they can offer lower plans in terms of, and they're using the world's largest 5G network. So Mint Mobile is pretty solid, man. I would say, and I have a link to them in the description box below. Full disclosure, I am an affiliate for them as well, but they're solid, man. So I appreciate it. Lauren said, question, not finance. That's okay. How limited is Mint Mobile? That's the question. All right. Or for as far as internet. No, they're 5G, largest 5G. So it's just like any other service that you would use. No issues at all. So I really like Mint Mobile. If anybody else has Mint Mobile, let me know. Thank you, LaQuisha, for sharing this channel. I appreciate you sharing it with your family members. That's what I want you guys to do, is to say, hey, How can we get some? This ain't Susie Orman. This ain't Dave Ramsey. This ain't name a person, Kiyosaki, right? This is a regular dude from the Midwest. My parents were born down south in Mississippi, both parents born in Mississippi, but a regular dude in the Midwest, right? Who's trying to help regular people all over the world, right? My goal is to reach 100 million people in the whole world about money, right? And sharing what I did to get there. So I appreciate you being here, LaQuisha. Thank you so much. And I said LaQuisha, it could be LaKeisha. Sometimes that Q is not pronounced qua. All right, Miami, Florida, checking in. Good to have you. Always hit the like button. I appreciate you smashing that like button. I really do. And I appreciate you being on there. Check us out. Make sure if you join the channel, you're going to be at the Sunday at 11 a.m. because I really want to open up and share with you guys as much as possible. The intra. Okay, good stuff. Tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow we'll be on. Now, sometimes, guys, I do pop on. If there's something breaking or something I want to share with you guys. So thank you so much for supporting me, Jerry. I appreciate it, man. Don't forget to get your 24 laws of money in the description box below, guys. Yeah, simple chats. Keeping it simple, man. That's the whole thing, right? It ain't got to be complicated. I'm not trying to sell you a Forex package. Nothing wrong. If you do a Forex package, that's cool, right? Nothing wrong with that. But I talk about things that I know about, right? I talk about things that I'm familiar with and things that I've done, so it doesn't have to be super fancy. So we've been on a while, guys. I see there's not really very many more questions. So if you have a question, drop it in real quick. If you don't, that's cool too. Somebody said hire a financial advisor. Yes, hire a financial advisor and a planner if you want to. Let me say that again. If you can learn this stuff and you feel comfortable with your learning and it's not very complicated to you, you understand it, you don't have to necessarily hire a financial advisor. You don't necessarily have to hire a financial planner. But if you just don't like this stuff and learning about money is boring to you or it's complicated to you or you just don't get it and you don't want to get it, then it's okay to hire somebody to help you out, right? But I know good and well that most people that can afford, that have the ability, the capacity to learn any job, you could probably learn money, right? You probably know more about money already than you think you do. Thank you for the super chat, JT Coin Rings. I appreciate you, man. Big time. Looking to have you in there on Sunday as well. So I appreciate. Check out JT Coin Rings. If you had I don't know if you have a YouTube channel or not, but JT Coin Rings, all separate words. JT Coin then Rings. Check him out if you get a chance to. So CPI report. CPI report. Somebody said, what does it mean? I don't want to rehash. I want you to just take your little cursor on your phone and go back to the beginning because we talked about CPI, Consumer Price Index, and what that inflation report showed today. Inflation slightly higher on the CPI and the core. Slightly higher, but still lower than it had been, right? But it's still going up at a rate that the Fed is not comfortable with. Fed doesn't like it going up at the rate that it's going up. Fed wants 2%, and we're seeing a little over 3.5% for core PCE right now. So somebody also said, I'm just checking in here, what's your advice on buying a used truck for C? Is used truck for C mean used truck for company? Oh, for business. Okay, she said, Adrienne said for business. I have no problem with buying a used truck for business. Here's what I would do, Adrienne, though. If you buy a used truck for your business, be sure before you buy that truck that you talk to a good CPA that understands and you can explain and they can explain to you what types of things you can use and write that truck off, in terms of writing some of the expenses off your taxes. What expenses for the truck can you write off of your taxes? Do any of those expenses have to be drawn out for 10 years, for 27 years? Like with real estate, it's 27 years, 27 and a half years. But have a good, strong conversation with a CPA. That way you don't make mistakes. That way you understand the ramifications for purchasing a truck and maybe some of the tax advantages for purchasing a truck, whether it's mileage, whether it's repairs, whether it's oil, changing tires. What can you write off? What you can't write off? Understand that thoroughly before making that truck purchase. But purchasing a used truck for your business, Nothing wrong with that at all. Matter of fact, that's probably better than purchasing a brand new truck, which you'll have to ultimately lose. It'll lose value on it real quickly, right? Used truck, and I also would consider perhaps maybe doing it cash, depending on how your business is structured, right? Keep that in mind. But talk to a really good CPA. That's your move on that. I can't really advise you too much more on that because I'm not a CPA, right? So I do want you, it's important when you have a business to have good people around you. And when I say good people, I mean a good attorney, a good solid CPA, right? Because I've been audited before. Full disclosure, my eBay business was audited by the IRS, right? So I understand. What I'm telling you is what I know. Have the right person doing your taxes. Don't have just somebody putting together stuff. Luke said joining from Australia, but not for long. I understand, Luke. Good to have you, man. Just make sure you smash that like button, Luke. All right. Hey, Seminole, thank you so much for the super chat. First time here for live. I appreciate you. I go live on Thursdays afternoons at 4:30 Central Standard Time, and I go live on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. So come check. You guys are not going to want to miss this upcoming Saturday. We'll do a little Q&A, but I got a lot to share with you. And then if you join the channel, we're doing a Sunday live and that's going to be focused on my net worth. I'm going to go through my net worth with you guys who join the channel, right? So, hey, I understand you trying to get your financial acumen together because there's a lot of stuff none of us was taught, Seminole 2014. So, again, thanks for that super chat. I appreciate you being here, Seminole. Don't forget to get your 24 Laws of Money in the description box below. Adrienne, you're very, very welcome. Smart Money Bro in chat, just getting on. We'll be sure to go back and watch. Sure, drag that little cursor because whenever I know when there's a live that I want to watch, I just drag that cursor back to the beginning and start watching. So I appreciate you guys. I'm gonna wrap it up. That's a good place to put a bookmark. Boom, boom. I appreciate you guys more than you know. I appreciate you supporting the channel, hitting the like button below, and then your questions and interaction throughout the chat, guys. I really enjoy and appreciate you guys asking questions and just being able to answer questions for you live, real time. I think is really super important. So again, guys, check out the description box below. We got Mint Mobile down there. We have our 24 Laws of Money, and you can join this channel as well. But you got to do me a favor and share this video, the link to this video, with your family, your friends, your network, etc. So again, I'm going to be checking out, guys. I super duper appreciate you guys. And as I always say, with every broadcast, at the end of it, because I believe it from the bottom of my heart, the best person who's going to take care of the old you is the young you, right? You guys take care of yourself and take care of other people. Until the next video, peace.